I was beautifully surprised when I walked into that room and saw her, and all the stars were aligned. Everything was just perfect. It was this beautiful woman just tripped and fell into my life. I fell into her life.
Something has just shifted inside the British royal family, and people across the world are still struggling to make sense of it. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have reportedly been left off the guest list of a major royal wedding, and many believe the monarchy has now sent its sharpest message yet. A message some commentators are even describing as the opening shot in a war. What unfolded behind closed doors, and why are royal watchers calling this a defining turning point for Harry and Meghan's future? Stay with me until the very end, because the truth behind this exclusion is something almost nobody saw coming. Royal weddings have always been among the most joyful and unifying moments in the long story of the British monarchy. The flowers, the carriages, the centuries of tradition folded into a single golden afternoon. And right now, in the summer of 2026, one of those occasions is unfolding quietly in the English countryside. Peter Phillips, the son of Princess Anne and the late Queen Elizabeth's eldest grandchild, is set to marry Harriet Spurling, an NHS paediatric nurse from Gloucestershire, on the 6th of June at All Saints Church in Kemble. The King has been informed and invited. Queen Camilla has been informed and invited. William and Kate have been informed and invited. But the detail setting the entire world talking is this: Harry and Meghan were informed, yet they were reportedly never invited at all. And the reason behind that snub may shock you more than the snub itself. To understand why this is being read by royal commentators as nothing short of a declaration of war, we have to rewind 18 years, because this story does not begin in 2026. It begins in 2008, inside the very same family, at a very different wedding, when everything between Peter Phillips and Prince Harry was the complete opposite of what it is today. In May of that year, Peter married Canadian management consultant Autumn Kelly at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle. As Queen Elizabeth's eldest grandchild and the first of her grandchildren to wed, the occasion carried enormous weight. Autumn wore Princess Anne's festoon tiara, the Queen attended, and seated among the family, fully part of the day, was a young Prince Harry. But here's what makes that memory so striking now. Harry didn't simply turn up and sit politely in a pew. He was present the way people are present when the bond is real and not merely managed. He and Peter had grown up together in the Cotswolds, reportedly causing the kind of cheerful mayhem that forms between royal cousins who share the same grandmother, the same country houses, and the same endless English summers. They weren't distant relatives exchanging cards at Christmas, they were family in the truest sense. Peter and Autumn went on to have 2 daughters, Savannah and Isla, and for over a decade the marriage looked rock solid. Then in 2020 came the announcement of their separation, with the divorce finalized in 2021, closing one of the more settled chapters in a generation of royal cousins. But the story was far from over, because love would return, and so would heartbreak of a very different kind. By 2025, the world exhaled with genuine warmth when news broke that Peter had found happiness again with Harriet Spurling, and that August the couple announced their engagement. It was the kind of uncomplicated good news the royal family rarely gets to enjoy. A man who had endured a painful divorce and co-parented under relentless public scrutiny had finally found someone. The wedding date was set for the 6th of June 2026, a private ceremony in the very region where both had grown up. And then came the guest list that would ignite everything. The King invited, the Queen invited, William and Kate invited, Zara and Mike Tyndall invited, Princess Anne, the groom's own mother, invited, and Harry, the cousin who once stood in St. George's Chapel watching Peter marry, the cousin who ran through the same fields and slept under the same roofs, reportedly not invited at all. A source close to Peter told Hello magazine the 2 men hadn't spoken in years and had simply lost touch. But experts say the real meaning runs far deeper than drifting apart, because in the world of the British monarchy, nothing is ever that simple. Every absence from a significant family occasion is said to communicate something far louder than personal feelings. Royal historians have long argued that deliberate exclusion from family events is never a passive accident of estrangement. It is a signal. And when that signal arrives from several directions at once and builds across years, it carries a very specific historical meaning. Consider the case of Prince Andrew, who was also reportedly left off Peter's guest list, with one source suggesting his presence would cause a distraction across the whole day. Andrew was stripped of his royal titles by King Charles in October 2025 and was reportedly detained at Sandringham on his birthday in February 2026. His exclusion is the formal expression of a verdict already delivered. So what does it mean that Harry now appears to share a guest list category with him? The answer is more devastating than you might expect. When a royal is steadily removed from the very occasions that define the institution's identity, the pattern, historians say, is unmistakable. It means the doors are being shut one event at a time until the person standing outside finally understands the inside is no longer theirs. The fact that Harry now sits in the same bracket as Andrew is not a coincidence, and it may be the clearest articulation yet of where the palace has quietly placed him. Andrew's downfall stems from criminal allegations described by some as catastrophic. Harry's exclusion, by contrast, traces back to a Netflix documentary, an Oprah interview, and a memoir. The circumstances could not be more different, yet the mechanism, observers note, is identical. And being placed in that same column, even silently, is a statement the palace never has to say out loud for the world to understand. But astonishingly, this was not the first time Harry faced an exclusion like this, and the one that came before may be even more personal and revealing. To understand it, you have to remember the Duke of Westminster's wedding in June 2024, and if you didn't grasp its true weight at the time, you're about to. Hugh Grosvenor, the 7th Duke of Westminster, is no minor figure in this story. He is one of the wealthiest people in Britain, heir to a property empire reportedly valued around £12 billion, and a man whose family has been entwined with the royals for generations. His mother is godmother to Prince William. Princess Diana was godmother to one of his sisters. Hugh himself was named a godparent to Prince George in 2013. And when Harry and Meghan chose the godparents for their son Archie in 2019, the name that eventually surfaced was Hugh Grosvenor. Let that settle for a moment, because it changes how you see everything that followed. Being named a godfather in the language of this family is no casual gesture. It is a declaration of profound trust and an enduring bond. Harry and Meghan made that declaration about Hugh. And yet, when Hugh married Olivia Henson at Chester Cathedral on the 7th of June 24, in what the Times called the most royal non-royal wedding of the year, Harry and Meghan were not there. The King was invited. Queen Camilla was invited. Prince William didn't just attend, he served as one of the Duke's ushers. Princess Eugenie was present. The cathedral overflowed with the most prominent names in British aristocratic life, and the couple who had entrusted this man with their own son were absent. So how did that absence come to be? There are two competing versions, and both reveal something chilling. The first, reported by the Sunday Times, claims Hugh himself chose not to invite Harry and Meghan to avoid a family clash that might overshadow his day. A source said Hugh had spent years achieving the near impossible, maintaining a genuine friendship with both William and Harry at once, and that having both brothers in the same cathedral had become unworkable. He had hoped time might soften things before June. It hadn't. The second version, reported by Page 6 through a source close to the Sussexes, tells a different tale. In this account, Harry and Meghan received a save-the-date months earlier, and Harry called Hugh directly to say their presence would be too awkward, sparing his friend the impossible choice. Whether the decision came from genuine care or from the very real security concerns Harry has fought over in court, the outcome was identical. The godparents of Hugh's world were 6,000 miles away in California, while William stood at the altar as an usher, and what circled that absence made it even more loaded. The backdrop was the fallout from Omid Scobie's book Endgame, published in late 2023, which had reignited fierce controversy and dragged old allegations back into global headlines just months before the wedding. Whether that timing influenced anything, nobody involved would say. A spokesperson for the Duke declined to comment on the guest list entirely, and that silence was its own kind of statement. The photographs from Chester Cathedral were radiant, Olivia in a bespoke gown, a bouquet of wildflowers from the estate, the family's traditional tiara on her head. By every visible measure, it was a beautiful day, but the invisible measure, the empty space where Archie's godparents should have stood, was present in every single frame. So with Harry and Meghan now shut out of two major weddings, the question everyone has been asking for years becomes impossible to avoid. What does their future inside the royal house actually look like? Most people instinctively look at the present, the exclusions, the guest lists, the balconies, and draw a straight line forward. But that's an incomplete picture, because the monarchy is in the middle of a generational handover, and the answer splits into two very different questions. The first concerns King Charles, and there the door has never fully closed. When Charles announced his cancer diagnosis in February 2024, Harry flew to London within days. In September 2025, after 19 months apart, Charles flew back from Balmoral specifically to see his son, and the two met privately for around 55 minutes over tea. Asked afterward how it went, Harry's reply was simply that it had gone really, really well. A source told Vanity Fair that the King has always left the door open, that he genuinely misses Harry, and that the ball is now in Harry's court. So is reconciliation truly possible? The answer depends entirely on the second question, and that's where the picture darkens, because the William question occupies a completely different territory. Multiple sources across multiple outlets have reportedly confirmed that William remains the single greatest obstacle to any meaningful reconciliation. He hasn't softened, hasn't reached out, hasn't made a single gesture suggesting his position has shifted. The consequences are already visible. Harry and Meghan were absent from William's flagship Earthshot Prize and from the global initiatives he champions as Prince of Wales. And then there was the Diana statue unveiling in July 2021, their shared tribute to their mother, commissioned together in 2017. Harry flew from California, stood beside his brother in the sunken garden at Kensington Palace, and within hours he was gone. No private lunch, no time away from the cameras, just two brothers close enough to touch yet entirely apart. The pattern, observers say, is deliberate. When William controls the room, Harry and Meghan are not in it. This is exactly why the Charles window matters so much and why Harry appears to understand it is closing. Charles has shown throughout his life that he secures the futures of those he loves, reportedly spending millions of his own private funds in 2025 to protect a property next to Camilla's sanctuary in Wiltshire. Harry's recent moves, the flights to London, the softened language, the BBC interview where he said life is too precious to keep fighting, all point to a man who knows the Charles era will not last forever and that whatever can be mended must be mended now. The opposition is real, and it will only grow in authority with time. The window is open, but it will not stay open. So is this the beginning of a royal war, or simply the wreckage of broken family bonds? Do you believe these exclusions are personal, or is the palace sending a far bigger message? Tell me in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and tap the next video already waiting on your screen. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. This is Royal Pulse, where whispers around the crown come to light.